Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're so happy to see all of you. I am Coach Jackie Leavenworth. If we've never met, I'm thrilled that you are here today, and even more thrilled that ACAR has taken the time and the will to want to come out and help us to figure out how we can stay at home and stay in business, and not just stay in business, but literally thrive and be good at what we're doing now, and also be prepared for whatever this future holds for us. So our panelists today, and I'm going to take a look here real quickly. I'm going to try to find Tom. We have three panelists. So we have, hold on here, 2 phone call listeners. Yeah, so Tom, I cannot promote you to a panelist because you're in as a phone call. So we have our panelists. We have Tom Rankin, who is with us from First Federal of Lakewood. We're having a few technical difficulties for you to see Tom today, but you're going to be able to hear Tom because he's got his voice and we will be able to hear his answers. We have Val Tossai, and Val is with Guardian Title. And we have Amanda Pullman with KW. She is an owner and rainmaker of her team in Solon, Ohio. So we have great professionals with us today to help you navigate these absolutely uncharted waters that we happen to be in, right? So I got some good news today. It appears that real estate is still moving for sure, because literally our March numbers, and if you think about this, this has been going on since February. We didn't have the total stay at home until about 2 weeks ago, but it's been going on. We had in our MLS, we had about 4,500 sales in the month of March, closed sales, and just edging on 6,000 new listings. So I see that as really great news. Amanda, let me start with you. What do you see going on with today's buyers and sellers? How is it impacting you? What are you finding with them?
Thank you, Jackie. So pleased to be here. And yes, I'll start off with that question. So up until this hit us, we were in a very, very good market, right? We had a seller's market. It was often sellers having multiple offers on their properties, low interest rates for buyers. So we can all agree that the market was buzzing in January and February. What we're finding is it is definitely business as unusual, right? So what we're seeing is that we're finding the motivated are still wanting to move, to get married, to change jobs. So now we're working with what we call the motivated buyers and sellers. What does that mean? It means sellers that have to move are putting their houses on the market, albeit with some serious restrictions on how they're doing the marketing, the touring, access to the house, being on a case-by-case basis. But we're certainly finding that houses that are priced right and in the right condition and area for what the price should be, they're still selling in multiples. And on the buy side, same thing. We've still got some buyers who can travel, meaning they're either local and they have to buy, they're moving out of town, they're starting new jobs, they've had babies. And those motivated buyers are also taking advantage of fantastic low interest rates.
Excellent, excellent. And before I move on to Tom, I want to remind everyone that somewhere on your screen, I don't know what device you're using, so I'm not going to tell you where it is, but somewhere on your screen, there is a Q&A box. So if you have questions for any of our panelists or all of our panelists, please make sure you put those questions in the Q&A, and we'll take them potentially where they'll make a difference if somebody's talking about it, or we may hold them till the end. So Tom, let us ask you at this point, what are you experiencing? We heard Amanda's viewpoint from the REALTOR side. What about you?
Well, thank you, everybody. And what we're seeing, and I'm going to speak as a lender for overall, not just First Federal Lakewood, but in the industry, we are seeing probably a 50-50 split of purchases to refis. The purchases are still very, very strong. There's certain markets that is not moving as quickly as other markets and price ranges, but we're still seeing a significant amount of activity. Yes, there is a definite concern for people when they apply on whether they're going to be able to complete the process due to job changes, work reduction, but we're moving along. And again, I got to tell you, March, at least for us, was the busiest month in registrations we have ever had.
Wow. When you say
Wow.
registrations, busiest month in registrations.
What that means is that 775 borrowers, purchasers applied for mortgage loans with the hopes that they can complete them within the 75 to 90-day period that we are locking the loans in for. So that translated into 190 million in new loan production.
Wow. So that I'm going to take that off into another question that I've seen. You are then still locking the rates. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, what lenders should be doing is what we call hedging the pipeline. In other words, let's take a look and try to predict as much as we can, hour by hour, how our pipelines should be hedged. Traditionally, we have locked in for a 45 or a 60-day period. That was the norm. But because of the unique situations that we are seeing right now, we re-hedged our pipeline, and I know other lenders are doing the same. Look at locks that are 75 days, 90 days. So give people some time to do what they need to do, because we'll, at some point we'll talk about how this getting some documentation. But people are saying, let's not move so fast on this, because if I lose my job, the loan closes, then I got to go into a forbearance.
Mm-hmm.
So smart lenders are hedging their pipeline to 75 to 90 days. Might not be enough, but at the moment, that's what we're predicting.
All right. So we had a question here of how long is Tom locking in the rates, and I think he just answered that. Thank you, Tom. Val.
Actually, Jackie, we couldn't hear how long he said.
Oh, okay. Tom, will you tell us again how long you are rating the locks?
Yes.
Or locking the rates?
Yeah. And again, I'm going to speak for myself, but this is a key question that realtors should be asking their lender. First Fed has chosen to lock their loan for 75 to 90 days. The refinances are going to be locked longer because, I'm sorry to say, purchases have to take priority. But this is a key question that a realtor should ask the lender when the borrower says, this is who I'm going to. Specifically ask, how long is your rate locked for? Do they give an extension? Is it a free extension? So get that specific information, because we also will give an extension and things and work with the borrower on this, but everybody is doing it a little bit different.
Okay. All right, great. And another question on that, Tom, from your perspective, when we write up a contract, how many days should we be putting in there for our loan approval and closings and Val will speak to you, because we haven't even got to you, Val, on question number 1. We will move over in a moment.
Okay.
Okay, I would be, the day of a 45-day contract is complete. I would put 30 days in for approval, and then another 30 days for closing. I think the contracts, in my personal opinion, need to move at the moment to a 60-day contract.
All right.
Again, if you're working very effective and efficiently and using a lot of the electronic services that are out there, you can still perform within a 45 to a 60-day period. So that's the recommendation I would be writing at this point.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And Val, what
Yes.
when you're working with these buyers and sellers and closing the deals, what are you experiencing?
It's kind of business as usual, but with a few hurdles to jump over. It's kind of like a hurry up and wait type scenario because we have to be on top of our game because of the limited hours that a lot of offices have right now. So we need to make sure that we're getting to the county courthouse early enough or getting our electronic filing in early enough for them to get them recorded. And then we sit and we wait for them to give us confirmation that somebody at the courts, at the county clerk's office has actually recorded the documents for us.
Okay.
But we still seem to be moving along easily. However, we're answering a lot more questions and responding to a lot more emails right now, which is to be expected. And we welcome those questions.
All right. But everybody's working from home and keeping the ball rolling.
Well, actually, our sales staff is working remotely. The majority of our internal staff is working in the office at a safe space, respecting their safe space, cleaning counters constantly, washing hands. So we are taking a lot of precautions. We've partitioned off certain sections of the office. This way the employees feel safe working there.
All right, good. All right, so that's leading me to another question, but I want to take care of one of the questions that came in here, or a couple. One, it said, please have the lender call back on video. It's bad quality. We apologize for that. There is a technical difficulty getting Tom in on the video, and I know it's harder to listen when you can't see people talk. If necessary, we'll type out some of these answers so that you will all have Tom's input if the recorded quality isn't good enough. So we apologize for those technical difficulties. But in today's world, that ranks up right there with an inconvenience, certainly not a tragedy. So we're going to roll what we have and appreciate what we have here, and we're doing our best. I also had from Leanne, what types of precautions are we taking when showing properties? Leanne, I'm going to put that off until later because it's a later part of our journey here today in the logistics of literally selling the real estate. Okay, so Val, let's go back to what you were saying about, the internal staff is in the office, you guys, some of you are working remotely. Getting documents signed, we'll start with you, Val. What is happening in the documents? And then we'll go to Tom, and then we'll go to Amanda.
Well, as everybody knows, in September, the state of Ohio did allow for remote online notarization. However, it's a long process to be approved and to get your certifications for that. And you have to use a specialized platform. You can't just use the network that we're using now, partly because of the technical difficulties that we're having. You need multiple verification as far as the person's identification and that that's their signature. So there are some hurdles with even just the electronic notarization. There are some companies that are doing it. They are running into some issues as well. And part of it being that not all of our clientele that we're dealing with is necessarily computer literate. So they're having a hard time navigating through that. Most of the title companies, and we are one of them, and I work for Guardian Title, we are doing what we're calling drive-up closings. We're scheduling our customers to meet us at a designated location. Our closer meets them. Everybody stays in their own vehicles. She passes them their documents, wearing gloves and a pen that they will keep along with a clipboard. And they sign their documents. She snaps a picture of their ID at a distance. And then they sign their documents from the security of their own vehicle and then return the documents to the notary.
Wow. Wow. Did anyone ever dream in a million years that our lifetime would see this kind of behavior necessary?
You're right about that. And I must say that all of the clients that have closed this way with us have been very grateful that we're doing it that way. they feel much more secure about it. They feel safer that they're not around other people and that we're socially distancing from them.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think all that's going on right now is giving us an amazing opportunity to get creative about how to be able to do whatever we need to do. You know, that designation that I've had behind my name for 35 years in real estate, I've, you know, the ABR and the CRB and the CRS and the GRI and the SRF and all that kind of stuff. But the big one was WIT, whatever it takes. And I think that's where we are now. Tom, let us ask you, you threw, when we were talking earlier, you threw some words out, and it was e-sign versus e-filing versus e-notary versus e-closing. Can you speak to that for us?
E-filing is going to be a very common practice now when you are not recording mortgage deeds. So e-filing is very popular for us in the refinance arena. Okay? E-notary, like Val said, there's a lot of competition to e-notary, and there is a question at this point whether the agencies, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, will accept e-notaries. They're even pushing back on e-signatures, for example, DocuSign. The real big Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae wants evidence that you have a special, for a lack of better words, a special vault email address that these e-signed documents go in. Now, to Val's point, the drive-by signups are very, very common now. If we have to do a wet signature, I think a lot of banks are redefining their auto windows at this point. We are seeing that people have come up to the auto window, they've signed the document, except for the notary page. They stick their documents into the auto thing, and with an ID, we notarize it and we give them a copy, and it's a done deal. So, to your point, Jackie, creativity is very important at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Amanda, now, you know, our side of the business had gone a lot to online anyway. So what are you experiencing on the e-signing and everything else? And what's the creativity out there for your side of it?
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think the majority of agents are already using some type of e-signing documentation, whether it's DocuSign or .loop. So, you know, making some accommodations for people that were not using computers, you know, that wasn't very much, but most everyone was able to use the e-signing. So I wouldn't say that that's changed. We're using it more, and I think, you know, depending on which company we work with, you know, we all know how to use it. Now it's actually getting creative with it and using it when you're doing virtual listing appointments, for example, and being able to use things like Zoom, which Zoom has become, you know, one of our best friends, and many of us didn't even use it 2 weeks ago. So now we're drowning in Zoom calls because it's from one Zoom to the next. So using Zoom and then the capabilities of e-signing so that you can show your client at the other end of the call, you know, how to use the documentation and how to be able to e-sign. And you know, it's a great resource now for listing appointments that we're doing virtually.
Excellent. You know, one of the things that I've been teaching for a couple of years now is how much the e-signing has concerned me, because people are like, click here and sign, next, click next, and they're not reading the pages and we're not explaining. And I've been saying for years now, because I've been using Zoom for over 4 years. And I'm like, we have such resources at our fingertips to be able to be in person when we're not in person, to make sure people understand what they're signing, etc. And we need to be using it. Well, now I think we're being forced. You know, there's some good things that are going to come out of all of this happening. I think we're being forced to be able to learn to use the technology to be able to communicate better with people. Which brings me to a question. In fact, there's a couple things here. Renee said she saw a van that had a sign on it, mobile notary. So we're going to see new businesses pop up as a result of what is happening right now, which is pretty incredible. The other was a question, and I would like to address it a little bit and then throw it out there for any of the three of you. Should our clients be signing the COVID addendum even if they might not need to? That is a fabulous question, because we need to understand that the addendums, number one, let me say this. If you are using an addendum of any sort, whether it's a keys transferred upon the title companies saying, yeah, the funds are all in place and everything's okay, or whether it's the COVID-19 addendum for extensions if necessary, whatever that addendum is, please make sure that you are getting that from your company or the state of Ohio or your association or something. Because listen, these things are floating around the internet big time, in Facebook groups and everything else, and somebody's from Kansas, hey, we just designed this addendum, read this, it's great. And then I see agents using the one from Kansas that might not be okay in Ohio. So please, for gosh sakes, if you're going to use something, make sure it is approved by an attorney in our state, your company, etc. Number one. Number two, we need to make sure that we are very, very clear on the fact that our job is to represent our client. And these clients, these sellers and buyers right now, everybody's uncertain and everybody's wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. And like Tom said, it's hour to hour, you know, things change. They are looking to us to be their experts in the real estate transaction, whether it's us as the realtors, the title, the lender, they're looking at us as the expert. If we were to go to them and say, you need to sign this because of what's going on, they probably will. So my take on this is we need to be very careful that our job is to explain what we have, explain what it means to them, the risks and benefits, and it is the client's choice as to whether to sign these documents or not. We cannot make them sign these. It's not our job. Our job is to present what makes sense and then let them make decisions based on their understanding of the risks and benefits. So I'm going to open that to any of the three of you. Just raise your hand, or Tom, you have to say something.
Yeah, you know what? I'd like to address it because these addendums, and to Jackie's point, this is a buyer-seller's choice, but these addendums need further conversation with the parties involved from the lender, because when we got the first one, the borrower assumed we were going to extend the rate for free for another 6 months, or whatever it was, another 60 days. And that isn't necessarily the case, because you got to keep in mind that lenders are hedging their pipeline. They're guessing on what this rate is going to be and when they're going to be able to deliver it to the agencies. So the lenders have to have conversation with the borrowers and say, yes, we will work with you if in fact you choose to go another 60 days on this contract, but I can't guarantee that you're going to be at the same rate. So that's additional conversation that has to be had with the borrower. And I've talked to a couple of other of my lending fellows and gals in the industry, and everybody's taking the same approach. We'll work with them. Once the rate expires, we'll put them in a float situation. And as we get closer to the election, this could be a good thing for them. Lenders, to my knowledge, are not guaranteed holding this rate for an additional 60 days if this addendum is implemented.
Mm-hmm. All right, good input, Tom. Thank you. Val?
May I add that we have heard from a couple lenders on a few of our transactions that they will not be extending rate locks. So as Tom said, the COVID-19 addendum is not acceptable for them.
Yeah, and that's where the realtors play a huge role in when we're explaining this addendum. We certainly aren't making a commitment to their rate lock, and buyers are going to look at it and say, wait, I'm extending this, but what if I lose my job? And so this is a discussion to be had, probably not in person, but online, in person, doing this. You know, I hope that you all know that zoom.us, which is what we're using right now, there is a free account in there that you can have a one-to-one conversation with people, like one computer to one computer or one phone to one phone, for up to, I believe it's 20 or 30 minutes, and it's free. So there is no excuse to not get with people and help them understand. Amanda, from your perspective on this.
So I agree with everything that was said. We use .loop, so using it, you know, whenever we're sharing documents, it's never sign, it's for your review. You know, make sure that we're keeping ourselves, you know, legally such that we're not asking our clients to do something because you shouldn't be. It's up to them to review it. I had a particular client that's a lawyer, and she said, no, this doesn't make sense. I don't want to sign it. And, you know, that's her choice. I mean, in our particular COVID-19 addendum on a transaction, you know, it will say, please consult with your real estate attorney. And I think that has to be, you know, well emphasized in every way. And then on the list side, we're using the one that's from OAR, which is the listing COVID addendum, so that you're very clearly outlining your responsibilities, the seller's responsibilities, you know, virtual showings versus whether they're going to allow any in-person showings, so that that expectation is clearly communicated up front, so that when you get into the listing relationship, the agency relationship with the seller, you know, there's no areas that you didn't explain properly or they weren't able to review because it's on the addendum that you're putting in your listing packets now.
Yeah, excellent. And, you know, Amanda, that kind of takes us back. Let me go back. We've had a lot of questions. Go back to Leanne's question earlier. What type of precautions are you taking when showing properties? So you just kind of, you know, went into that. So let's go ahead and expand on that for our people right now. What are the precautions that you're taking when you're listing a property or working with a current seller?
So yeah, I'll address that. So I'm really embracing the virtual part of this because, you know, it's very important to me and for my team that we all stay away from each other. So we're definitely erring on the side of caution, and we intend to do everything we possibly can virtually. So doing listing appointments virtually is becoming, you know, second nature. You know, obviously you have to learn your way around Zoom, because then you learn how to screen share and you know how to be able to talk to people such that, you know, you're following along with your screen, because it becomes a little bit, as you well know, Jackie, there's a lot going on the screen, from backgrounds to recordings to chat, etc. But then you take it a step further and you tell sellers how easy it can be to do virtual showings, and how there's even ways now to gauge and see how many buyers are touring virtually. If you have a really serious buyer, you know, using 360 virtual tours, you can see how many toured, and then the buyer potentially can hop on a Zoom call. So you can be with your seller, the buyer's agent can be with the buyer, and they can have a serious look at the house with all parties touring the house together. Again, you know, I'm going to always err in being very careful. Don't you describe the house. Let your seller, as they're walking through it, because they're the one with the phone at the end of the Zoom call. And I would always use the record button just in case something was said that after the fact comes back to question something. And then you are basically putting a serious buyer in the hands of a seller, along with the representation of the buyer's listing and buyer's agent. So it's, you know, it's working. We're shifting, we're failing forward. And I think, you know, ultimately we want to get business as usual as soon as possible. So we've all got to stay away from each other.
Yeah, so a couple of great words there. We're shifting, number one. I mean, we don't want to be the dinosaurs who couldn't adapt to their new environment and became extinct, right? So we've got to shift, we've got to adapt. And Amanda said we're failing forward. So I think all of us, you know, just like, you know, I know some of you are, you know, you're thinking, wow, it's really hard. I'm having to listen really hard because we can't see Tom's lips moving right now. But that's just part of our learning process, is trying to figure out how we do it all. and we have to work through this. This is a learning curve. We're all failing forward. I'm going to take this a little further on this showing thing. I love the information about the virtual showings, etc. For me, because I happen to have a lot of high C in me, and caution is one of my favorite words, right? I think that I would be sending the seller's disclosure statement, make sure that the buyer has the seller's disclosure statement, and that they have been, it's recommended that they review it before we do this virtual tour of the house, so that they can highlight anything on the disclosure and say to the seller, take me and show me what you mean by this. And again, the seller, I mean, there's liability on the seller's part to explain that, I suppose, even more, but I wouldn't want to be the realtor who explains it. But I think that the buyer has the right to say, wow, this says there's water in the northwest corner of the basement. Can you take me and show me what you mean? Because I think that there is definitely a little bit of a frightening thing to buying a home 100% sight unseen for people who just don't want to go see that house. So how are you dealing with it, Amanda? And even Val or Tom, if you're hearing anything from buyers and sellers out there, how are we dealing with this sight unseen? Are they making an appointment at some point?
So it's on a case-by-case basis. I feel that you can't put a price on the way you feel when you walk in a house, right? But we have, all of us as realtors, had one or two or more cases where someone just can't see a house. We had a New Yorker a couple of months ago. He couldn't get in to see the house, so he did buy it sight unseen. So I think when we're doing our appointments, whether it's a showing appointment or whether it's a listing appointment, I think we have to talk less, listen more. This is actually a good skill for all of us that tend to kind of regurgitate or throw up a lot of talking. Me, I'm a terrible offender, and I'm finding myself being very purposeful about asking questions and doing a lot more listening. And I feel like using Zoom, you're almost able to guide it a little bit better because you are being purposeful about letting the seller, for example, talk about the house and show it, or the buyer with the buyer's agent ask the question of the seller, and like you say, the seller doing the talking. Yeah. So, you know, it's actually helping us with some of the skills that we needed to work on anyway.
Yeah, excellent. Val, from the title company perspective, do you see anything that you want to talk about these virtual purchases?
Actually, because we lag behind what everybody else does by a week or two, the virtual showings and sellings just really came on board basically within the past 8 days. So we're not seeing those transactions quite yet. So we don't know how the buyer and the seller are reacting to them. But I do have a comment I want to make, since we're talking about using Zoom so much, is that please, if you have a chance, Google the City Club of Cleveland. They had a Zoom meeting on Monday, and they were Zoom bombed. They did not use a lot of the precautions that you should be using when having a Zoom meeting. So please do that, because it gives you a lot of pointers as to how to have a Zoom meeting. In fact, Jackie even picked up a tip on there when I had forwarded it to her.
Yeah, I'm thinking, thank you, Val, because I'm thinking that you guys had some kind of a consent probably that this is going to be recorded. So I had never done that on my Zoom until Val sent that to me, that people, you know, would consent to that. Tom, do you have anything to add to the virtual purchases?
Yes, actually this has opened up a whole brand new venture for lenders when it comes to appraising the properties. Yes. So what's happening is that Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the agencies have come out with specific directions that say, on a purchase, you can go with the desktop appraisal. That appraisal then gets forwarded to the borrower on a purchase investment. One unit, again, we can use desktop appraisal. On a purchase investment at 2 to 4, it's a traditional appraisal. see within the next couple of weeks that Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae will be implementing property inspection waivers. You're going to hear the term PIW. And it's likely going to be those purchases that have a low loan to value.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, so on this virtual stuff, I've got an interesting question that came in. I'm concerned that if I have my seller's guide virtual tours, they will begin to question my value as the realtor is what I'm reading into this. And why should they be paying a good commission when they're doing so much of the work? I don't know. Personally, I think what we're doing now is we are working extremely hard to help these people get their homes sold. And I think that might be self-talk and fear going out versus what a seller might be totally thinking. Amanda?
Yeah, there's two things that I would say to that agent. First of all, the 360 tour or Matterport or whatever tour you're using, that can just be of the house. But you as the agent, if you're feeling comfortable, you can actually put the tour on something like Zoom, play it, and you can talk the tour. Now, I'm not say, oh, look at the basement, it's so dry. I'm talking, here is the lower level. As you can see, there's a bathroom, full bathroom on the lower level. Now we're going upstairs and so you're actually talking the tour, and then you can post that and you can use that, and your seller will be very happy with you because you are marketing and promoting the house. What we're talking about on some of the, what I was discussing was more when the buyer's really serious. They said, I can't get into the house, or I don't want to go into the house, but I'm serious enough that I'm thinking about an offer. That's when putting all the parties together, in some cases on Zoom, might work out because you've got, like you said, like we talked about, you've got that intimacy of all four people being on the Zoom call and the seller directing the buyer to what's on the residential property disclosures or what's behind that door where the cabinet leads to, etc.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said in some cases, Amanda, because I think this is all case by case. I mean,
Yes.
I've had sellers that I would never want to explaining anything to a buyer or
100%.
couple parties together, right? But I think all of this, no matter what we're considering, I think it is a discussion with our client of what is the best way for us to handle this. We come out with a solution, and if they see, people who plan the battle never battle the plan. So rather than me saying, hey, here's how I want to do this, I want you to hold your phone, I want you to do this and that, yes, I would agree we might get that kind of a response from a seller. But if I sat down and said, here's what we've got, we have a serious buyer, we've got to figure out how we want to do this because we want to be able to capture this buyer's interest. Let's just talk and figure out what our options are and figure out what the best option is now. And if they say, well, I could do this, they've planned that, they're not going to battle it. So I think that, as Amanda said earlier, we're into a world of more discussion, not less. I think social distancing is actually promoting better communication, which is a lesson we've all had to learn, by all means. Now,
if I may jump in here, I did an exercise in the middle of March with 53 of my loan officers. I said, I need you to sheet of paper, take 2 columns. What's their value prior to COVID? What's their value now? And it was very interesting to see their response. The value level was still very high, but how they were creating the value was a little bit different. How they're helping the borrower to navigate through all of this technology with regard to, okay, your bank statement. You don't need to send me your bank statement, but I need to navigate you through this electronic transfer of bank statement. So I really would recommend that if any of you have any questions, get a piece of paper. This is the value I brought to the table before COVID. Here's what I'm bringing to the table now. And when you add everything up, it's still really valuable.
Jackie, can you repeat what Tom had said? Some of it.
which one? What he said just now?
Yes.
or about the appraisals?
Well, actually, neither one came through very well, but
Yeah.
if we want to start here.
I'm getting a lot of it. He was talking about the value. So what he did with his team of, you said about 53 lenders, Tom, is that correct?
53 loan officers.
Loan officers, yeah. And he had them, I love this exercise. He had them do a 2-column little exercise. Column 1, what was your value to the client before COVID-19? And the second column, what is your value after? Now that we're dealing with this, how is your value? And what they found was their value is the same, but they might be needing to express that value differently and work differently. The value we bring to the table, any of the 3 of these institutions, industries that we're talking about today, our value hasn't changed. The way we deliver our value has changed. Tom, did I summarize that point?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. And now we've had several people say that they really want to hear, Tom, what you said about the appraisals. And I guess we're a little garbled because it's going from my phone to my computer to the Zoom. So if you could slowly repeat just what we need to know about the appraisals, and I'm going to repeat after you.
Okay. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, agencies have determined the following when it comes to appraisal. On a purchase, the lender can use desktop appraisal. In other words, when they can the loan to get an approval, an appraisal will automatically be pulled from the Freddie Mac Fannie Mae system.
And you said that was on what type of a loan?
That's on a purchase.
On a purchase.
Owner occupancy.
Okay, so let's stop right there. On an owner-occupied purchase, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you said have approved, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
They have approved a desktop
Okay, hold on.
appraisal process.
Okay. And Tom, just listen to me and correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I want to make sure I'm getting this right. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have approved a desktop appraisal for owner-occupied purchasers. And what that means is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will go to their system for the appraisal information and do this desktop approval. So we don't have a live appraisal going out to the house. Is that correct, Tom?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So the next one you talked about then, that was an owner-occupied purchase.
Right. Investment property, single family, same process.
Okay. So investment properties that are single family will use the desktop approval or appraisal as well.
Correct.
Okay.
A purchase investment 2 to 4 unit must be a traditional appraisal.
All right. So a 2 to 4 unit purchase is going to need a traditional appraisal. So Tom, that means the appraiser is actually going to go out to the property and use the precautions that the CDC has recommended.
That is correct.
All right, good. Anything else on that we should know?
Yeah, keep in mind it's a 2 to 4 unit investment purchase.
All right. So if it's going to be an owner occupied, they're going to fall under desktop?
Yes.
Okay. So the clarification there was the actual in-person appraisal would be on an investment property 2 to 4 units.
Correct.
If it's owner occupied, the desktop appraisal will work. So
Apply.
I hope that answered that question. And I'm going to go back to a couple more here. Jeffrey Silko talked about the fact that his company does 3D tours, and he's in the Q&As. And his question is, are we seeing increases in the requests for tours? And I suppose, Amanda, that would go to you. From buyers or sellers, are they requesting more tours? And anybody can.
Well, I think it's a necessity for you as a listing agent to be able to provide it. So, our team immediately switched to adding them to every listing rather than just adding them to ones that we had selected over a certain price point. And then I immediately went ahead and shared, I had a great kind of deal given to me that I negotiated. And so I shared that particular videographer's info with everyone from every company locally that I could think of, so that everyone else could also do the same thing, because we are all trying to help our sellers and our buyers. So it's not anything that we need to keep for ourselves, it's for everyone, so we can all easily tour each other's listings, right? And he fed back to me and said he's never been as busy as he is, and he's insanely busy going in and out of houses safely, and we even take pictures of him with his hazmat, gloves and everything. Now obviously the vacant houses are easy for him to kind of go in and out, and it only takes 15 minutes and very inexpensive with the package that I negotiated for all of us.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm getting a question here from Gail. How do we deal with seniors that want to sell, but they don't have email and they only have a flip phone? And, I think it's not just the seniors. We are going to run into people who can't do the virtual. Amanda, have you guys run into that, and how are you handling it?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And I had a very elderly seller who said, I have no problem with you coming in. And I respectfully said, I think I do have a problem coming in, because I've made it a policy to not go and do listing appointments in person. And when you're doing the same for everyone, the fact that she couldn't get on and do anything virtually with me, I feel like it's safer for her to not be around anyone, given that she's more isolated. I've got another person, and same thing. We just can't do the stuff virtually, so we're waiting, just staying in touch with him, asking him what I can do to help. Does he need toilet paper delivered or something? Just keep that going for now, because there are going to be a certain percentage that either they don't want to do it, we can't do it, or it's not safe to do it.
Right. And I'm glad you said something that was very important that I want to make sure everybody heard on that. And that was that you said, as long as the policy you're keeping is the same for everyone. And from a fair housing perspective, we really need to consider that. We can't be selective and say, I'm not going into this house because of this, but I'll go over and do a listing appointment here. That could be fair housing violations, or deemed to be a potential fair housing violation. So be careful that whatever policy you put in place is something that is consistent for everyone. I would like to transition here. Amanda, we were asked who your tour person is, and I don't know if we want to do that here on the Zoom, or if people should just get a hold of you if you'd like to give your contact information here.
Yep, I'll just put my email and my phone number, and then I will forward it to you on Messenger. I also posted it in Facebook pages, Facebook groups that I'm a part of. So if anybody's
going to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll put all that in there. So what I'd like to do now, unless Val and Tom, we've hit a lot of logistics. I know my head is swimming. I'm guessing others are. Are there any other logistics before we get on to, I want to work with Amanda on the creative sides of really doing a great business and taking advantage of the opportunity that exists for us right now in our branding. So,
yeah, this is Tom, and my suggestion is making sure that you are working with lenders that have a lot of electronic services.
Okay. Yeah, so Tom's comment, I'm just repeating that, sorry for all the double here, but Tom said make sure that the lender is someone who has a lot of electronic services. So, we've always cringed when the buyer finds the internet rate, right? And who are they working with, and can this deal be closed? Well, now it's never that the buyers are working with lenders who can close the transactions. And I mean, obviously deals can be done, and Val, deals can be transferred, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so.
I think it's important for me to add something at this point before we move on to continuing to increase our business and to keep our business going. And that is, please, to all of the agents well, this applies to anybody. The criminals are out there and they're taking advantage of this tumultuous time, especially within the real estate industry, because they know that our business has been disrupted so much. Please advise your customers of phishing scams and of wire fraud. Verify, verify, verify. A title company will not change their wire instructions. If they do, it'd be very, very unusual. So once we give wire instructions, that's pretty much set in stone. And we are very suspicious of anybody, anytime we receive a change order of wire transfer. So please, just a quick reminder about that. That was my 2 cents and my public service announcement.
Hold on, Tom.
Seeing a huge increase in phishing scams and trying to take information. So I back up what Val is saying.
All right, so Tom just fully agreed with Val that we've got to be even more cautious. And there's another use for our Zoom and stuff. You know, we became an industry where I think we got so efficient in many ways that we were missing some very important steps and caveats of explaining things very carefully. And this is another place I think we need to be Zooming with people, FaceTiming with people to say, you do understand that if you get anything like that, you call and we need to talk about it, because, you know, there are people who will take advantage of this thing. And Amanda, I know we're really running down on time. This is an amazing hour that we're spending together, but I want to do one more logistic. I know there's another addendum out there about the keys maybe and possession being transferred, possibly prior to the courthouse actually making that stamp like they used to. And Val, you and I talked about that. Would you talk to us about how that is working and how this actual ownership thing is working today?
Me first?
Sure.
Okay. So we do have some issues that we have to work through with each county, and each county has set up very similar systems, but of course everybody is on different schedules. So they may have limited hours, limited employees, or they may be closed on one day and only open, you know, other days. So we do work through those logistics. In the majority of cases, as Tom said, the mortgage documents, the mortgage deed itself needs to be recorded. It cannot be physically recorded. It cannot be electronically filed. So therefore, we run those down to the county, we drop them in a drop box, and we rely on a county official to record those documents on our behalf. We wait for their response. We are not seeing a big lag in most of the counties in Northeast Ohio. That being said, there are exceptions to those rules, because we do have a couple counties that are very stringent hours. So we're having to rush documents there so that we can get there by a certain cutoff time for them to record. We are considering our documents recorded, and we are dispersing in a timely manner. So we're not running into many issues there. We are providing gap coverage on our title policies, which ensures that the documents will be recorded and that we're considering it closed at that time.
Okay, excellent. And one of the things for the realtors, I think, to understand is that each county is behaving a little bit differently right now. So where
yes,
the
they are
is a little different, right? Okay.
Yeah, and if you have a concern, reach out to your title rep and make sure that you understand what's going on in that specific county where your transaction is being recorded.
Yeah, which would bring me to one last question for you and Tom, and then Amanda, are you okay if we go over a few minutes, because I really want to get to some of your creative stuff that I've been seeing.
I think so, except I think I have a Zoom call at 2 that I'm hosting, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Which means I probably have to jump on it, otherwise it won't start without me.
Okay, in that case, I need to go to you. If you are not aware, you being the attendees of this webinar and anyone listening to the recording, if you are not aware, Amanda Pullman has put together an amazing thing, which is why she is the expert on here, one of the many reasons. He has put a Facebook group together, the realtors winning through social distancing. And I mean, literally within the first week, Amanda, I think you had over 600 people in the group. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's very active, and it is chock full of great tips and ideas from realtors around the country on what we can be doing to literally be where the people are today. They're online, how we can be there, and how we can touch our tribe, our sphere in a better way. Amanda, can you give us your best advice until you have to jump on that other call?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so the group was moving into action today. It started as like a book club with my office on Shift. You know, Shift is a book written by Gary Keller that's timeless tactics on what to do on a shifting market, because we all go through shifts, right? In Ohio, we have a seasonal shift, whether it's, you know, the summer into the winter, and we have a lot of economic shifts, and we know about it. This is an unprecedented shift. So I thought, well, let's just put all the brilliant minds together and let's kind of lean on each other. So, you know, what we've been doing in there is realizing that there's a lot of content. You can be drowning in Zoom by all of the different content that's out there. And we're trying to put things into action that matter today. So things like, how do I use Zoom? We had a fabulous call with a Dallas agent on Wednesday, and she showed us all about how to do your backgrounds on Zoom and how to, you know, how to understand the difference between a webinar and a meeting and hosts, etc. And we all need to be very, you know, proficient with the technology, and we're learning quickly. Today we had one on Canva. Next week we're doing another one on social media, and you know, we're recording them. And listen, we're not the best out there. There are tons and tons of groups that have thousands and thousands. My goal is to say, well, I've led a team now for the last 8 years, and we've done really well kind of working and leaning on each other and learning from other people. So now it's a matter of putting it out there for every realtor from every company, and especially the local Cleveland ones, because you're the ones that I can share the resources with. You know, the videographer and the fabulous rate that we got for him. A lot of you are coming back and saying, thank you so much for negotiating that, because it's helping all of us get our listings up virtually. We're so very lucky that we're not in a state like Michigan and Pennsylvania where we are not essential. Real estate is not essential. Lot boxes are off the houses, and it's a grinding halt. We are all changing as rapidly as we can to use Zoom and use online and virtual everything, and we're learning from each other. I mean, if there's content that I find, I post it, and I've got several realtors, Jackie's one of them, that just throws things in the group that says, this is helpful, this is something I saw or I learned. So every one of you, please, it's not for any other purpose but sharing content and being a place that we can also laugh a lot, and we can also bloop. I mean, today I wanted to go Facebook Live with my fabulous Canva 101, which was a brilliant training, and Facebook wouldn't cooperate, and I never got live. So I'll throw the training recording in there later. So yeah, all I can say is action. And, you know, for the realtors out there that say, gosh, you know, what about my business right now? Well, your business right now is the activities you did 3 months ago. So well done for you that the last quarter in 2019, you sold homes, because they are closing now and we're kind of on life support. Like, what can we do, and how much can we be in the same mindset with our lenders, with our title companies, with our affiliates, such that we can get our deals to close, because life goes on. Buyers still need to move in. Sellers still need to move out. We've got babies and jobs and things changing. So our goal right now is life support, but we can't forget that what we're doing now is going to show up in 2 to 3 months. And it's not the usual doing business. It's now, how can I help my clients and be top of mind, such that when the time is right for them, which is in some cases now, but in some cases it's going to be in 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, depending on how their confidence is with economics, the stock market, COVID, everything. And we need to basically capture mind share rather than market share. It's not about, it's not today about what we are getting. It's about what we can give. It's how we can help, what we can do to stay in touch. And that's why for those of you that, you know, like my group as a realtor, do the same with groups of your own, whether it's mums groups and homeschooling, whether it's places you can go to get your dog some exercise that, you know, you're not around other people, whether it's relocation pages and you're moving people, you know, you're talking about your city and why you love your area. There's a lot of social media that we can be doing very actively to kind of create that audience of attention such that hopefully you're top of mind when things really move into serious action, which, I mean, I have no doom and gloom about what's going on. We're gonna get through this, and we're gonna hit a fabulous late spring market that's gonna take us hopefully all the way through till November.
Yes, thank you so much, Amanda. And yeah, and even Lawrence Yun said there is going to be such a pent-up demand that we need to be ready for that. So
Now.
Lots of questions about the group. Catherine is back in the back putting it in our chat so that you know, if you click on the chat button, it will give you the name of the group. The group again is Realtors Winning Through Social Distancing. Or
While social distancing.
social distancing.
It's a cumbersome name, but I just kind of did it.
Here's all you have to do, folks. Go to your Facebook, and there's a search box at the top. When you're into your Facebook, there's a search box. Put in Realtors Winning. It's probably going to be the first one that pops up. Amanda Pullman is the administrator, so her name will pop with it. And just ask to join. It is phenomenal. And the idea is like a scavenger hunt for moms to do with their kids while they're, you know, have their kids at home. We are trying to help people cope in a positive way. That's what Amanda's done with this group. It has been fabulous. And again, we have a great opportunity right now, even for our brand. People are out there watching what we're doing right now. Are we helping? What are we doing to help people cope and do what they need to do? Not just sell real estate, but to cope. So Amanda, I know you've got to jump off, but we so appreciate your time. If you've got to go, we get it. And Val and Tom, are you okay for a few more minutes if I keep you on here?
Yes, in fact.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Amanda.
Bye-bye.
So Val and Tom, I'll address you first if that's okay, because I have to repeat it, and then Val will sort of end with you. What can we, as the realtor in the transaction, be doing to make this transaction flow as well as possible from your perspective? Is there something you need from us?
Yes, we would really appreciate the realtor and making sure that the borrower or seller, but mainly the borrower, acts quickly when we are asking for particular information, because any delay that we experience because we're missing some information down the road could then cause some interest rate problems. So we are asking that the borrowers, when they're asked to bring in a document, to please do so, or rather scan the document over, to please do so ASAP, so we can get this loan to the finish line, get it to closing, and then get it to disperse and peace out.
Okay. Well, I'm going to summarize that, Tom. Let me know if I did this incorrectly. I'm going to summarize it in a quick fashion for everyone. Tom's point was, I mean, I think always time of the essence has been an important thing in our business, even more so right now, particularly with your borrowers, that if the lender is requesting something, let's work with our buyers, make sure they understand the importance of getting things signed right away, because a delay could cost the interest rate problem, and that could cost the transaction for the buyer and the seller and for all of us. Tom, did I summarize that all right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Val, what could we do to help you?
My comment was going to be very similar, is that title companies send out opening documents to buyers and sellers. And surprisingly, right now we're seeing a delay in getting those documents back. I would have thought that if anything, people would have gotten them back to us quicker now. So that's one of the issues that we're having. and our only concern there is that in a normal transaction, in normal times, I should say, it wouldn't be an issue. But because we're dealing with so many other businesses and cities that are on delays as well with limited staff, it's causing delays for us if we don't get those documents to them quickly. And we wouldn't want a payoff to hold up a transaction.
There you go. Good. You know, and I had a long talk with my daughter yesterday, who is a school teacher, and we were talking about their dilemmas of delay stuff too. The kids who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, and the parents aren't making it happen. So one of the things we talked about was trying to be understanding, if you will. I think a lot of us have this feeling that everybody has so much time to spare now because they're not at work, but they're home working and their kids are home and so I think that there's that fine line we are walking to respect and honor what somebody's life is, and we don't know what it is right now. They could have a family member with COVID. We don't know.
Right.
So to respect and honor that, and to couch what needs done in a manner that they understand that we are needing them to do this in their best interest. And so I think we need to be really, really caring at that. So, and I will speak for Amanda because she and I discussed this question earlier. And for her, from the Realtors perspective, is what we need from the lenders and title is communication as much as possible, so that we are all on the same page, because we're all in this together. And I think, you know, in the book Click, it's a book by Ram and Ori Brafman, Click, C-L-I-C-K. They talk about building a click and building an emotional connection with people. And when that doesn't happen automatically, can you actually build it? And you can. And one of the things they talk about in that book is how shared adversity brings people together. And I think what we have now is shared adversity. And I can't say enough how much we appreciate, and I'm speaking for the Akron Cleveland Association here, ACAR, and everyone on this webinar who will listen to it, how much we appreciate Amanda's input as the realtor, but Val, you as the title, and Tom, you as the lender, coming together in this shared adversity to try to help each other conquer what we need to conquer at this time. It's all different, but I believe we can all do it if we do it together, by all means. And I have one more question here that I don't think I've taken care of. Inspections, are they wearing PPE? I don't know that we have the crew on here to talk about inspectors. Maybe we should have had an inspector on here. Maybe that's another goal, to talk to an inspector. But I would certainly hope that everyone is taking all of the precautions that are recommended by the CDC, if indeed we need to be in person with other people. You know, let's hope that quality inspectors are protecting themselves and others, not just about us. So with that, we've gone a little over here, and we were up to over 90 participants on this webinar. It was great. I thank you all for your time, and I, as the coach, will leave you with just a couple little thoughts. A quote that I found the other day when I was doing a big webinar that was wonderful, by Leo Buscaglia, I think it was, and it just said, "Worry will never empty tomorrow's sorrows. It will simply empty today's strength." So let's stay strong and stay calm, cautious, and caring. So I'm Coach Jackie. Thank you to ACAR for doing this. Val, thank you. Tom, thank you. And Amanda isn't with us, but thanks to Amanda. And thank you all for attending. And by the way, this will be recorded. So I'm sure ACAR will be sending out a link. You can listen to it again. If there are parts of the recording that we hear from all of you are, like when I wasn't repeating Tom's stuff in the very beginning, maybe we'll put a Q&A out together where Tom can answer that. Tom, would you be willing to answer those things in writing?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that would be that. And one last question for Tom, it's not stopping here. Has the credit score been raised for qualifying?
Credit scores are going to be all over the board right now. What we're seeing on government loans is that it's going up to 660 and some to 680. Conventional loans have not moved, but it's the government credit scores that are increasing.
Okay. So the answer to that was in the credit scores, conventional hasn't really changed, but in the government, we're looking at 660, maybe 680, but it's anybody's guess and it's a wild card. Tom, am I safe in saying that?
Yes.
It's just like everything else, things can change from hour to hour where we are right now. So what we say on this webinar is good for about a minute. Hopefully a little longer, but everything is shifting and changing. Stay educated. Stay in touch. I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you to everyone. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.